It's been said that better questions lead us naturally to better answers, and that it's in not knowing that we open the doorway to knowing. I'm Scott Lennox, and you're listening to The Beautiful Question, a consideration of things that truly matter in a complex world. The job of a good scriptwriter is to move the characters and the action forward in effective, compelling, and dramatic ways. As our own mental scriptwriters, we are constantly writing and narrating the lives we live. Join me this week as we consider ways of making the scripts we write more effective and much more useful. You'll never convince me that you're not a good writer. With the exception of those who have reached enlightenment, most of us spend many of our waking hours mentally scripting and narrating everything we experience, sometimes out loud. In that sense, even though we're not putting words on paper, we're writing all the time. Walk or drive down any street, and you'll mentally describe what you see, often judging or comparing what's happening to other experiences you've had, and perhaps telling yourself what you'd rather be doing. Encounter someone along the way, and you'll quickly spool up things to say to them, often creating their responses in advance. Watch a child playing, or an old person sitting on a park bench, or see someone moving through the space you're occupying, and without consciously choosing to do it, you'll create a narrative about what you're observing, often down to the finest details. Prepare for a job interview, and you'll find yourself busily creating responses to the questions you think you'll be asked. See flashing lights in your rearview mirror, and as your heart begins to race, you'll quickly make up a story to tell the officer. Sit in your doctor's office, and the writer in your mind goes into overdrive, busily asking questions and creating possible scenarios. Stand in line in a coffee shop, and you'll go over your order, perhaps again and again, in your mind. Drift off to sleep, and you'll spend part of your time reviewing the day and then looking forward to the next one. And the next morning when you awaken, your mental generator is right there waiting for you as it offers up an endless set of possibilities. You see, over the course of our lives, we become accomplished mental scriptwriters. But on careful examination, we recognize that not all of our scripts are useful or necessary. In fact, how many of them truly match reality? How many of them are healthy or good for us? How much of what we think is actually harmful or destructive? And as a consequence of our mental habits, how often do we find ourselves far less happy or peaceful than we could be? So, looking at our script writing from a different perspective, let's consider what happens when we shift the process from automatic to manual, intentionally allowing ourselves to write scripts that best support our lives and the lives of those around us. Imagine creating a mental script in which you are centered, relaxed, peaceful, happy, and healthy. A script that helps you know who you are and in what condition you are. A script that allows you to move in the direction of what you envision and helps you engage in what you innately know to be good for you. Stated another way, consider what happens when you go from unconsciously narrating your life to making a conscious and intentional process of generating thoughts that are realistic, healthy, and productive. Naturally enough, one of the first steps in accomplishing that is to stop and listen inwardly as you become aware of the things you've been telling yourself. From there, it's possible to craft a new narrative, one that's based on what is true and on what is best for you. From a place of greater clarity, you can then take the steps you need to make your inner script an outward reality. Listening to yourself will help you get there. People assume that as a counselor and consultant, I talk for a living. But in order to be effective, I had to learn that it's imperative that I listen as deeply as I can before I respond to anything that I hear. In fact, it's important that my listening far outweighs the things I say or the questions I ask. How could I be truly effective if I did it the other way around? The shift in my ability to accomplish that didn't become possible until I learned how to listen to myself openly and objectively. Paying attention to my inner script writing came about as a result of a recommendation by my own counselor several years ago. He suggested that I stop and notice the things that I was automatically and habitually thinking, and that I write them down. When I did, I was startled by what was going on in my head. One of the things that stood out sharply was the voice of my internal narrator. It spoke in the critical voice I thought I heard my father using when I was growing up. But in hindsight, I recognized that what I was hearing in my mind was not my father's voice at all. It was a harsh voice of my own constructing. While I was no doubt mirroring the criticism and judgments I'd heard earlier in my life, I had created a distorted and caricature-like version of the way I perceived my father to be speaking when he talked to me when I was younger. When I shared with my counselor what I had noticed, I remember him asking me 3 questions. What's the sound of your true voice? What's the result of all your negative and critical thinking? And if you were to tell yourself the positive and encouraging truth, what would that sound like? So this week, the questions my counselor asked me are my beautiful questions for you. I'll ask them a slightly different way. First, what does your truest inner voice sound like? What are the qualities of the so-called voice of your authentic self? Second, what has your negative thinking produced? Be honest with yourself about this one. And third, as you craft a positive, honest, and encouraging script for yourself, what do you hear yourself saying? What specific things will you repeat to yourself over and over and over again? I'll be excited to hear what happens as you take charge of your mental dialogue. Write and tell me about it. As I say each week, my light with your light. Thank you again for listening. I'm always inspired by our collaboration as we work and play together, building better lives and better possibilities for ourselves, for one another, for the world, and for our beautiful planet home. I look forward to your comments and to your feedback. You can also be inspired by visiting my good friends at Cosmos Journal, including their online newsletter. That's KOSMOS Journal. Their mission is to inform, inspire, and engage global transformation in harmony with all life. You can easily find them online at cosmosjournal.org. And as always, you can find my free podcasts and guided relaxation audios by searching for The Beautiful Question in Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or CastBox, or by visiting the podcast page of my website at scottlennox.com. If you find them useful or encouraging, don't hesitate to share them. I'm Scott Lennox, and this has been The Beautiful Question. The Beautiful Question is a One Light production, written, recorded, and produced by Scott Lennox at Heart Rock Studios in Fort Worth, Texas, as a way of paying forward to life, being fully present, and becoming better engaged with things that truly matter in a complex world.